Presidential debate. Trump and Biden row over COVID, climate and racism. U.S. President Donald Trump and his White House challenger Joe Biden clashed over COVID and race while trading corruption charges, in their final live TV debate. On the pandemic, Mr. Biden would not rule out more lockdowns, while Mr. Trump insisted it was time to reopen the U.S. Mr. Trump cited unsubstantiated claims Mr. Biden personally profited from his son's business dealings. The Democrat brought up Mr. Trump's opaque taxes. Mr. Biden has a solid lead with 11 days to go until the presidential election. But winning the most votes does not always win the election, and the margin is narrower in a handful of states that could decide the race either way. Live updates, the scramble to claim victory, final debate fact check, key takeaways from the debate. More than 47 million people have already cast their ballots in a voting surge driven by the pandemic. This is already more than voted before polling day in the 2016 election. There are about 230 million eligible voters in total. In Snap polls, from CNN, Data Progress and U.S. Politics, most respondents said Mr. Biden had won the debate by a margin of more than 50% to about 40%. What was the overall tone? Thursday night's primetime duel in Nashville, Tennessee, was a less acrimonious and more substantive affair than the pair's previous showdown on the 29th of September, which devolved into insults and name-calling. Following that political brawl, debate organizers this time muted microphones during the candidates' opening statements on each topic to minimize disruption. But the 90-minute debate, moderated by NBC's Kristen Welker, was the scene of plenty of personal attacks between the opponents, whose mutual dislike was palpable. Did Trump or Biden sway these voters? And the winner was Kristen Welker. The debate in pictures an individual closing argument to voters. They offered starkly different visions for the nation on everything from shutting down the country to tackle coronavirus, to shutting down the fossil fuel industry to confront climate change. Coronavirus, going away. Nowhere was the distinction between the two candidates more apparent than in their approach to the pandemic. Asked about his support for more lockdowns if the scientists recommended it, Mr. Biden, a Democrat, did not rule it out. But Mr. Trump, a Republican, said it was wrong to inflict further damage on the economy because of an infection from which most people recover. This is a massive country with a massive economy, said the president. People are losing their jobs, they're committing suicide. There's depression, alcohol, drugs at a level nobody's ever seen before. Mr. Trump, 74, declared that the virus was going away, and that a vaccine would be ready by the end of the year, while Mr. Biden warned the nation was heading towards a dark winter. The president said, "We're learning to live with it." Mr. Biden, 77, countered, "Come on. We're dying with it." Mr. Biden laid blame for the 220,000-plus American deaths as a consequence of the pandemic at Mr. Trump's door. Anyone who's responsible for that many deaths should not remain President of the United States of America, he said. This guy is a dog whistle. During a back and forth on race relations, Mr. Trump said, "I am the least racist person in this room." He brought up the 1994 crime bill that Mr. Biden helped draft, in which Black Lives Matter blames for the mass incarceration of African Americans. A simple guide to the U.S. election. How is Donald Trump doing in the polls? Why Abraham Lincoln starred in the election debate, but Mr. Biden said Mr. Trump was one of the most racist presidents we've had in modern history. He pours fuel on every single racist fire. He added, "This guy is a racial dog whistle about as big as a foghorn."